Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're talking about a question that has made a lot of people nervous lately. Will AI replace your job?
And instead of giving a dramatic answer, we want to look at it from a more realistic point of view. Especially from the IT industry, where the impact of AI is already visible.
Right, because people usually hear two extreme opinions. One is that AI will take everyone's job. The other is that AI is just a tool and nothing really changes.
And honestly, neither of those views is complete. The truth is more complicated, and probably more interesting.
So today, we're not going for hype or fear. We're going for clarity.
Exactly. So let's start with the question everyone is asking. Will AI replace your job?
So what's your honest answer?
My honest answer is, not in the simple way people imagine. AI usually doesn't replace an entire job all at once. What it replaces first are tasks, then parts of workflows, and eventually maybe some roles that are built mostly on repetitive tasks.
That distinction matters, because when people hear, AI will replace jobs, they imagine a human being disappearing from the company. But what you're describing is more gradual.
Exactly. Think about a job like software engineering. Writing code is part of the job, but it's not the whole job. A real engineer has to understand requirements, ask the right questions, evaluate trade-offs, debug unexpected problems, communicate with other teams, and make decisions under uncertainty. AI can assist with some of that, but not own it end-to-end.
So the more a job depends on judgment, context, and responsibility, the harder it is to replace completely.
Yes, and that's why the phrase, AI replaces jobs, is often too blunt. A more accurate statement is that AI compresses some kinds of work. It reduces the amount of human effort needed for certain activities.
Compresses work is a useful phrase, because it suggests something important, even if the job title stays the same. The content of the job changes.
Exactly. Let's say you used to spend 3 hours writing a first draft of documentation, or summarizing a long meeting, or generating test cases. Now AI helps you do the first pass in 20 minutes. That doesn't necessarily eliminate your position, but it does change what your manager expects from you.
And I think that's where a lot of anxiety comes from. Maybe the real fear is not only job loss. Maybe it's that people feel the standard is moving faster than they can adapt.
That's a very important point. AI creates pressure in two directions at the same time. On one side, it removes friction. On the other side, it raises expectations. So if a task becomes easier, companies often don't say, "Great, now you can relax." They say, "Great, now you can do more."
So from a worker's point of view, AI can feel less like replacement and more like acceleration.
Yes, acceleration is the right word. And acceleration changes who succeeds. The people who learn how to work with AI effectively may become much more productive. The people who ignore it may not be replaced by AI directly, but they may be replaced by coworkers who know how to use AI well.
That idea sounds harsh, but I think it's closer to reality than the dramatic version. It's not machine versus human. It's more like human with better tools versus human with outdated habits.
That's exactly how I see it. And if you look at history, we've seen something similar before. Automation did not remove all work. It changed the composition of work. Cloud computing didn't eliminate IT. It changed what IT people needed to know. DevOps didn't eliminate operations. It changed the structure of collaboration and responsibility.
So would you say AI is another transition like that? Or is it something bigger?
I think it's both. In one sense, it's another technology shift, but in another sense, it reaches into cognitive work in a way earlier tools didn't. That's why it feels different. AI doesn't just automate physical or mechanical actions. It can draft, summarize, classify, translate, analyze patterns, and generate ideas. That makes it relevant to office work, knowledge work, and even creative work.
That's probably why so many people feel personally threatened by it. It's not replacing only factory labor or back office processing. It's touching areas people once thought were uniquely human.
Yes, but this is where nuance matters. Producing output is not the same as understanding meaning deeply. Generating text is not the same as being accountable for the consequences of that text. Making something that looks intelligent is not the same as having wisdom or judgment.
So the danger is partly real. But people often misunderstand what part is real.
Exactly. The real risk is not that AI becomes a magical employee who can do everything. The real risk is that organizations redesign work around AI assistance and then reduce the need for some categories of routine human contribution.
That has big implications for junior employees, doesn't it? Because junior people often begin with routine work.
Yes, and I think that's one of the most serious concerns. Many professions used to have an apprenticeship structure. You start with simpler tasks, and through doing them, you learn the deeper logic of the field. But if AI starts doing more of those simpler tasks, companies might expect junior people to contribute at a higher level much sooner.
That creates a paradox. AI makes work easier, but learning the profession may become harder.
Exactly, because if you don't struggle through the basics, you may not build intuition. And in IT especially, intuition matters a lot. You can generate code with AI, but if production breaks at 2 in the morning, somebody still needs to understand what's really happening.
That's such a good example. Because production incidents don't care whether the code looked elegant in a draft. They care whether the system is reliable.
Right, and that's why I think the future belongs to people who combine three things: domain knowledge, critical thinking, and the ability to use AI well. If you only have tool usage without understanding, you'll hit a ceiling very quickly.
Let's talk more about that. Because a lot of advice online is too vague. People say, learn AI, but what does that even mean in practice?
In practice, it means understanding your own workflow first. Where do you spend time? Which tasks are repetitive? Which tasks require structure but not deep originality? Which tasks need human judgment at the end? Once you understand that, you can insert AI into the right places.
So the first step is not, be impressed by AI. The first step is, analyze your work.
Exactly. For example, in IT operations, AI might help summarize alerts, draft incident reports, classify tickets, or suggest troubleshooting steps. In software development, it might help with boilerplate code, documentation, tests, or code review suggestions. In business analysis, it might help summarize meetings, structure requirements, compare versions of documents, or draft initial user stories.
And in all those examples, AI is not acting alone. It's part of a human-controlled process.
Exactly. That human-controlled part is crucial. Because AI can be fast, but speed without validation can be dangerous. A wrong summary, a misleading analysis, or a plausible but incorrect code suggestion can create expensive mistakes.
So that brings us to another important issue. If AI becomes part of the workflow, then quality control becomes even more important, not less.
Absolutely. In fact, this is one of the most misunderstood parts of AI adoption. Some people think AI reduces the need for oversight. In reality, it often changes the form of oversight. Instead of checking whether someone completed a task manually, you now have to check whether the AI-assisted output is correct, reliable, secure, and appropriate.
And that's where governance, ethics, privacy, and security come in.
Yes, because once AI is in the workplace, the question is no longer only, can it do this? The question becomes, should it do this? And, under what controls? For example, can you feed company documents into a model? Can you use customer data? Can you automate a reply that affects a contract, a diagnosis, or a legal decision? Those aren't just technical questions anymore.
So if I were to summarize our discussion so far, I'd say this: AI does threaten some kinds of work, especially repetitive work, but it also creates new demands for judgment, validation, process design, and governance.
That's a very good summary. And maybe I'd add one more thing. Adaptation is not optional anymore. Whether you're excited about AI or not, it is already changing the expectations around work.
Then maybe the smartest response is neither panic nor denial. It's deliberate adaptation.
Exactly. Learn the tools, but also learn the limits of the tools. Use AI, but don't outsource your thinking. Save time, but reinvest that time in deeper understanding. That's probably the healthiest way to approach this transition.
So, will AI replace your job? Maybe that's still the wrong question.
A better question might be, which parts of your work can AI do? Which parts still require human judgment? And are you learning fast enough to stay valuable?
And maybe that's the real challenge of this moment. Not competing with machines, but becoming more thoughtful about what human work is really for.
I think that's exactly right.